In the year 1206, on the wind-swept steppes of Central Asia, a man of no kingdom, no palace, and no formal title stood before the assembled tribes of the Mongol people and received a name that would echo through history: Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. Within his lifetime, he would conquer more territory than any individual in recorded history. Within a century of his death, the empire he built would stretch from the Pacific coast of China to the doorstep of Vienna, encompassing 24 million square kilometers, roughly a quarter of the Earth's entire landmass. It would become the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever seen. But Genghis Khan did not begin as a conqueror. He began as a child left to die on the steppe. The Mongol homeland in the 12th century was not a nation. It was a fractured, violent patchwork of nomadic clans: the Mongols, the Tartars, the Naimans, the Karaites, locked in cycles of raid, counter-raid, kidnapping, and blood feud across the vast grasslands north of China. There was no unified leadership, no shared identity, no concept of Mongol nationhood. Survival depended entirely on the strength of your clan and the loyalty of your horses. Into this world, in approximately 1162, a boy named Temujin was born to a minor clan chief named Yasuge. When Temujin was 9 years old, his father was poisoned by Tartar rivals at a feast. Returning home, Temujin presented himself as the new clan chief and was immediately rejected. His father's followers, refusing to follow a child, dispersed and left the family to starve on the steppe. What followed was years of desperate survival. Temujin, his mother, Hoilun, and his siblings scraped existence from roots, berries, and small game, cast out, hunted, and nearly killed on multiple occasions. At one point, Temujin was captured by a rival clan and forced to wear a heavy wooden restraint as a slave. He escaped through cunning and the help of a sympathetic captor. These early years of humiliation, starvation, and survival did not break Temujin. They forged him into something entirely new, a leader who understood at a visceral level what it meant to be powerless and who would spend the rest of his life ensuring he would never be powerless again. What distinguished Temujin from every other ambitious steppe warrior of his era was not physical strength, though he was formidable. It was his radical approach to loyalty and merit. The steppe system ran on blood. Leadership passed through family lines. Alliances were formed through marriage and kinship. Loyalty was owed to the clan, not to any individual. Temujin systematically dismantled this entire system. He began by building a personal following based not on birth, but on demonstrated loyalty. Men who betrayed their own clans to join him were rewarded. Men who showed courage in battle were promoted regardless of their origin. Former enemies who fought with genuine commitment were incorporated into his ranks and treated as equals. Most radically, he abolished the tradition of clan-based looting after victory. In the old steppe system, whoever reached the enemy's possessions first could keep them, creating chaos and incentivizing individual greed over collective discipline. Temujin ordered that all spoils be collected centrally and distributed according to contribution. This single policy change transformed his followers from a raiding party into an army. By 1206, after 30 decades of relentless military campaigning that eliminated or absorbed every rival steppe confederation, Temujin convened the Great Kurultai, the assembly of Mongol leadership, on the banks of the Onon River. The assembled chiefs proclaimed him Genghis Khan. He was the ruler of a unified Mongol nation. He was also, at that moment, arguably the most dangerous man alive. The Mongol army that Genghis Khan unleashed on the world was unlike its opponents had encountered. It was not the largest force in the field. Its advantage lay not in numbers, but in speed, coordination, and psychological warfare. The Mongol soldier was, from childhood, a horseman. Boys began riding at 3 years old and shooting from horseback by 5. By adulthood, a Mongol warrior could accurately fire a composite recurved bow, one of the most powerful projectile weapons in the medieval world, at full gallop. Each warrior maintained a string of 3 to 5 horses, allowing the army to cover 150 kilometers in a single day if necessary. But the most devastating weapon in the Mongol arsenal was not the bow or the horse, it was the reputation. Cities that surrendered without resistance were generally spared and incorporated into the Mongol Empire. Cities that resisted were destroyed with total, methodical completeness. The message was not cruelty for cruelty's sake. It was a calculated offer. Submit and you will prosper. Resist and you will be erased. The first great targets of Mongol expansion were the Shih-Shah dynasty of northwestern China in 1209, followed by the far more powerful Jin dynasty of northern China in 1211. The Jin commanded millions of soldiers, vast fortified cities, and centuries of military tradition. They had built the Great Wall specifically to keep steppe peoples out. Genghis Khan did not attempt to break through the wall. He went around it. Faced with walled cities, a form of warfare for which nomadic cavalry had no natural answer, the Mongols recruited Chinese engineers and siege weapons specialists from conquered populations. They learned from every enemy they defeated, absorbing the technical knowledge of conquered peoples into their own military machine. While the Chinese campaigns continued, Genghis Khan launched what would become one of his life's most consequential decisions, the Western Campaign against the Khwarezmian Empire. The Khwarezmian Shah ruled a vast, wealthy Islamic empire stretching across modern-day Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. Initial contact had been commercial. Genghis Khan sent a trade caravan westward in 1218. The Khwarezmian governor, suspecting the merchants of spying, had them executed. Genghis Khan's response was measured and final. He sent ambassadors requesting the Shah's personal punishment of the governor. When the Shah executed the ambassadors, he sealed the fate of his entire civilization. The Genghis Khan response, launched in 1219, was not a raid. It was an extinction event. The great cities of Samarkand, Bukhara, and Merv, among the most cultured and wealthy cities on earth, were besieged, taken, and destroyed. The Shah fled west and died on a small island in the Caspian Sea, a fugitive in his own empire. The Persian historian Ibn al-Athir, writing in the aftermath, described what he had witnessed as a catastrophe unlike anything since the creation of the world. Population losses in Central Asia were staggering. Some regions depopulated by 50 to 75%. Irrigation systems that had supported agriculture for millennia were destroyed, and in some cases, never rebuilt. Genghis Khan died in 1227 on a campaign against the Shih-Shah, the cause uncertain. He was somewhere between 60 and 65 years old. He had spent more than 30 years in nearly continuous warfare and had never lost a campaign. His empire did not die with him. His son, Ogadai, was named Great Khan and authorized the Great Western Campaign of 1236, led by his nephew Batu Khan and the brilliant general Subutai, arguably the greatest purely military mind of the medieval era. The Western campaign swept through the Rus principalities, burning Kiev, Ryazan, Vladimir, and Moscow systematically. Poland and Hungary fell in 1241. At the Battle of Legnica in Poland, a combined force of Polish, German, and Templar knights was annihilated. Western Europe lay exposed. Then Ogadai Khan died in Mongolia. The campaign stopped. Batu and Subutai turned their armies east for the Kurultai to elect a new great Khan.
They never returned west. Vienna never fell. Whether this was fortune or fate, medieval Europe was spared what its contemporaries regarded as certain conquest. The question that historians continue to debate is not whether the Mongol Empire was the largest in history. It was. The question is whether it was, on balance, a force of destruction or a force of transformation. The death toll from Mongol campaigns across China, Central Asia, Persia, and Eastern Europe is estimated by scholars at somewhere between 30 and 40 million people. The Islamic Golden Age was broken at its core by the Mongol destruction of Baghdad in 1258 and the burning of the House of Wisdom, one of the greatest libraries in the medieval world. Yet the Mongol peace that followed conquest was genuinely transformative. For roughly a century, the Mongol Empire maintained sufficient stability across Eurasia to enable safe travel from China to Europe along the Silk Road. Marco Polo made his famous journey to the court of Kublai Khan during this period. Technologies and ideas moved between civilizations at a speed that was, for the medieval world, extraordinary. And in an era of intense religious conflict, the Mongol rulers practiced a pragmatic pluralism. Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, and shamanist advisors all served at the same court. Genghis Khan's legacy resists simple judgment. He was, by any measure of human suffering, one of history's great destroyers. He was also, by any measure of political and organizational achievement, one of history's most extraordinary builders. The Mongol Empire did not last. By the mid-14th century, it had fractured into rival successor states. The Black Death, which may have spread westward along the very Silk Road the Mongols had opened, devastated their populations alongside everyone else's. But the world the Mongols left behind was permanently different from the world they had found. From a single child abandoned to starve on the Central Asian steppe, one of the most consequential forces in human history was born. That child's name was Temujin, and the world he remade still bears his shadow.